Hey, fellow vets. Thought I'd whip out a quick video about a visit I had at the VA yesterday and a conversation that I had with my primary care doctor. Um, like I said, went to my normal visit, sat down with the doc, and began our regular visit that we normally do every 6 months. And my doctor knows that I'm in the IT field. And so, as part of our introductions, he said, "Hey, what do you think about AI and how it's progressing?" And I told him, I said, "Well, it's part of our everyday life these days, and it's being used for automation, and it's like an enhanced Google, those type of things." And I said, "Why do you ask?" And he basically came back and he said, "Well, the VA recently just signed a large contract with an AI company, and the sole purpose is to help save time for the doctors at the VA, and it will transcribe visits with their patients and the conversations that the doctors and the patients have." And I said, "Okay." Um, I said, "Are you using that right now?" He said, "No." He said, "I tested it, and I found it to be very problematic and inaccurate." And I said, "Well, can you explain what happened?" He said, "Well," he said, "with a veteran's approval, we went ahead and turned it on, and it uses the microphones of the computer, and it listens to the conversation, and it writes or transcribes everything that was said in that conversation, and it puts it into the medical file, and then that becomes part of the medical record. Now, before it gets officially saved to that record, it has to be proofread by the doctor and verified. And then once the doctor reads it and validates everything in there, they hit approve, and it becomes part of the medical record itself. And so the way it used to work before is the doctor would take notes, and then he would have an assistant type everything into your file about that visit, such as your vitals and your complaints and any discussion that you had with the doctor regarding treatment. And but with the last couple of years of reductions in the staffing at the VA, those personnel don't exist anymore, and so the doctors have to literally type all these notes themselves now. And the goal of this system was to help the doctor save time, so they don't have to sit there and type it all out. And my doctor told me that um, after that visit, and he proofread what the transcription said, it was completely inaccurate. It put things in that the veteran said that the veteran never said. It put things in that the doctor said that the doctor never said. It omitted critical information. Um, it misinterpreted words. Um, and it wasn't formatted in any readable way per se. He said it was just full of errors. And so what he did as part of this test is he was timing how long it would take him to correct what the transcription said versus how long it would take for him to just type it out manually. And he wound up spending less time typing out manually than he did using the system. And so he thought, well, maybe this is a fluke. So he did it again with a different patient, and the same issue arose. And so he escalated this to his supervisor, and they acknowledged that the system has a lot of problems, but it's being rolled out anyway. Um, and so they've had to call the company, and I cannot remember the name of the AI company, but they had to call them and say, "Hey, this thing is not transcribing correctly." And so they had to do a special request to get the actual recording, the audio recording, downloaded from their servers, which by the way is stored in the cloud, um, so they could verify that against the transcript to find out that it was, in fact, inaccurate. Now, the concern here is if a doctor and a patient are discussing a treatment or a condition, and the AI is typing its own thing, and the doctor doesn't fully proof it and hits approve on that transcription just because it's the end of the day, they want to go home or whatever, that becomes part of the veteran's official medical file. And um, I can foresee how this can be a major issue. And I told that much to my doctor, and I said, "Hey, this could be a problem." I said, "And I guarantee you, if you were to ask uh, most of the patients that you have walking through this door, are they okay with AI listening in on your conversations and transcribing what's being said? Uh, are they okay with that?" I can guarantee most veterans, especially the old school ones, uh, they're going to be like, "Heck no, I don't want my stuff out there. I don't want, uh, some AI listening to my conversations and our medically privileged conversations here." Um, and I expressed that to him, and he acknowledged that yes, that is an issue. And I also explained to him, hey, as an IT professional, you know, I have serious concerns about the security of this. Um, you know, all of our information is being stored in the cloud. I mean, it's bad enough our medical records are already out there anyway, probably, but now we're adding more uh, records to the cloud that can be compromised. This could be an issue in my mind. So I'm telling you this story because these systems are being implemented that affect us veterans directly, and we have no say whether these systems get implemented or not. There was no feedback, uh, asking veterans, "Hey, are you okay with this?" There was no feedback to the doctors, "Hey, are you okay with this?" Someone on high decided that this was the best way to do this instead of having people on staff entering records accurately. So, anyway, just wanted to get that out there. Uh, you know, ask your doctor if the conversation is being recorded. Ask them if AI is transcribing their visit. Um, it's my understanding that it's not just the general doctors that are using these systems, but there's specialty clinics, all of them. And I'm sure that this is a medically or medical wide, industry wide uh, push that's going on. Not probably just not the VA. I think all medical healthcare systems are probably utilizing this in some form. But we need to be really concerned because those of us who are disabled vets and our disability claims, you know, they look at every little thing that's said and documented in your file. And if there are inaccuracies, you could be denied claims. You could be have your claim pulled from you, reduced, uh, and it could be just because there was inaccurate information put in your file. So anyway, hope this helps. Um, be aware of what's going on at the VA when you go, um, uh, and just take care. Thanks.